You're gonna pay for that.
Devil May Cry 3 sets the tone for the entire game within its first 20 minutes so effectively that you could honestly review the game based on it alone. Everything you could possibly need to know about the gameplay, story, main characters, and the sheer quality of it all is presented to you on a silver platter in an introduction that leaves you wanting more. Good introductions are the driving force behind a player's motivation to keep playing the game, and boy does Devil May Cry 3 have a good introduction. Where do we start? How about the cornerstone of the entire series, the element that the whole of the game rests upon, the main character? Dante has essentially been a different character in each of the games. In the first, he was a level-headed but cocky devil hunter with a smart mouth and some serious mommy issues, and he was also one of my favorite aspects of not only the story but the entire game, making every single cutscene he was in a joy to experience. As the protagonist of a cheesy, melodramatic story about slicing and dicing on the servants of Satan and avenging his mother's death, he was basically perfect. Now comes the second game, a real piece of crap.
Whatever.
A botched and short development cycle meant that all corners that could be cut were. Anything that made the game fun, including Dante's character, was wiped from existence. It's a miracle the game was made at all, but apparently they underestimated the impact Dante had on the appeal of the first game. Turning him into a mostly silent, edgy anime character who was completely detached from the story did nothing but alienate fans of the first game and make him an entirely unappealing protagonist, which, once again, perfectly reflected the quality of the game in general. So how does Devil May Cry 3, a game presumably all about Dante, introduce him? It's so over the top, so ridiculous, and such a magnificent return to form that I couldn't help myself grinning from ear to ear as I watched a teenage Dante kill a room full of demons with nothing but pool balls. But that's not it. As soon as the player gets control, it's like opening up a present on Christmas Day. Everything the series has been building towards has been concentrated into a smooth, stylish, finger-licking good combat system. After the first mission, we're introduced to all the other main characters: Arkham, Lady, and Dante's twin brother Virgil. Virgil is just awesome. He's everything that Dante isn't, in a good way. The first time you see him, he straight up murders the boss that took you several tries to defeat in a single slice. While Dante is wild and impulsive, Virgil is cold and calculating, and even more deadly. He's Dante's perfect antithesis, which leads me right into the narrative portion of this review. This time around, you have to ascend a giant Gothic-themed tower. Why? Because Dante wants to beat the crap out of his brother, that's why. No, really, that's it. At the beginning of the game, Dante is so immature that his only motivation in continuing onwards is the thought of beating Virgil just for the sake of beating Virgil. Of course, as Dante grows as a character and it's revealed that there's more at stake, Dante has to man up and put the well-being of others over himself for once, and his character growth is brought about by Lady, the bazooka-wielding schoolgirl whose motivation is beating the crap out of her dad. You could say there's a whole lot of family drama going on in this game. Anyways, Arkham, Lady's dad, murdered his wife, is is trying to open a portal to hell and is just generally a terrible person. Lady, although engulfed in hatred towards her father, feels it's her responsibility to put an end to his dastardly plans, even if she's not realistically capable of doing so, which contrasts Dante's carefree attitude and eventually makes him realize that the things he's doing doesn't just affect him but the rest of the world. Lady helps Dante find his identity not just as a demon with a big mouth, but a human with emotions.
Are you crying?
Devils never cry.
I see. Maybe somewhere out there even a devil may cry when he loses a loved one. Don't you think?
Maybe.
The story is good, surprisingly good. Like, there are characters with arcs that make sense. The story is cohesive, entertaining, emotionally poignant, well written, and well acted from start to finish. What series is this again?
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
From a narrative perspective, the series has simply never been better. In fact, Devil May Cry 3 represents such a substantial improvement over everything else in the series up to this point that there's really no reason to go back to play any of the others ever again. It's just the best one. But that's hardly a detailed analysis of why, so let's just jump right into it. For the first time in the series, the game seems to actually encourage you to experiment with different combos and weapons. Now, the other games weren't horrible at this, but it just never felt like there were a ton of variables to play with in terms of what you were capable of. Simply spamming buttons until all the enemies in the room were dead was far too effective most of the time. The rating system in the top right seemed to respond most when hitting enemies as quickly as possible rather than stringing together complex combos. This time around, it was changed completely. Everything about the game pushes you into playing it as stylishly as possible. From the get-go, every attack feels buttery smooth and the different moves you perform mix together wonderfully, allowing you to pull off some crazy stuff. You're allowed to have 2 weapons on your character at once that you can switch to at will, essentially doubling your moveset. There are several different combat styles you can experiment with, giving you even more variables to play with. The skill ceiling on this game might as well be in outer space. There's always room to improve. The rating system especially encourages you to constantly improve, making it abundantly clear what it takes to get a high score. Speed and complexity. Performing the same moves too many times in a row makes your score gradually go down, while stringing together different moves makes it go up. It's beautifully effective at letting the player know whether or not they're playing the game well. And the difficulty reinforces the theme of continually getting better. Every enemy encounter is a test of your knowledge and skill, pitting you against a diverse cast of enemies that will absolutely wreck your crap if you're not careful about it, and the bosses are the pinnacle of them all. Every boss is heart-pounding, adrenaline-pumping, rage-inducing, and fair. Each one will have your fingers aching by the end of it by how much the game demands of you. They punish you for trying to tank blows or slash away without any caution. All this culminates into one of the most satisfying games to complete of all time, because you know how much it took to beat it, but you did it anyway. I'm not saying it's a timeless masterpiece, but, well, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better third-person action game hacky-slashy something or other out there. So, yeah, it's basically a masterpiece. And with the added replay value of 3 extra difficulty modes, being able to go back to any mission you want, maxing out your weapons, and the fact that you will never be as good at the game as this guy, you really have no reason to stop playing it. It's great! With a more than serviceable story, fantastic combat and level design, great enemy and boss variety, and the fact it never gets boring, makes Devil May Cry 3 a must-have for people looking for one of the most satisfying and masterfully put together action games ever released. I'll tell you what guys, finishing the HD collection has been a real fun journey, and I'm glad my Devil May Cry experience isn't quite over yet. My name is JaBoc, and I hope we meet again.